Before we get into the episode today, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are gathered on and pay my respects to elders both past and present, as well as acknowledging any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander educators who are tuning in. Thanks everyone for joining us and listening to season 6 of Educator Yarns. Today I'm joined by Stephanie Watson, and Steph, I'm just going to read a little bit about you.
Yep.
So Steph is a busy mum and wife caring for her two children aged 9 and 6 in the rural area of Helensburgh. She works at Happy Hearts Academy Early Learning Centre in Helensburgh, where she has served as a second in charge to IC and educational leader for the past 2 years. With over 10 years of experience in early childhood education, Steph took a break from her career to raise her children and to be a stay-at-home mum. She has worked with children aged from 6 weeks to 6 years and has been a room leader in all rooms, but her true passion lies with the babies. 2 years ago, Steph took on the role of educational leader, where she developed the Reconciliation Action Plan RAP from the start and established an entirely new programming system. She absolutely loves her new role and has gained invaluable insight into early childhood education from a different perspective. Wow. Big job, hey? It's a big job. RAP's a hard work, right?
Yeah, it was.
So, Steph, you were one of the nominees for our Educator of the Year award. So congratulations. And I think very much well deserved. I'm going to read out your nomination. So by the time you leave today, you'll probably have an even bigger head. But, you know, it's like one of these things that you're just like, yeah. I do those things. I do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy Hearts Academy ELC Helensburgh is proudly nominating our admirable 2IC and educational leader, Stephanie Watson, for the First Nation Early Childhood Educator of the Year award. Stephanie is a diploma qualified early childhood educator dedicated to embedding and trailblazing a path to embracing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives in everyday practice at Happy Hearts. She endeavours to celebrate and learn from the rich heritage of Australia's First Nations people via her connections with our local Indigenous people, communities and lands council. She is dynamic, respectful and genuine in her approach and ability to ensure that our centre includes authentic connections and recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives with acknowledgement of country, yarning circles, incursions, professional development opportunities and extensive fundraising for the Aboriginal Literacy Foundation. Stephanie passionately supports our educators to create meaningful experiences that explore Aboriginal art, music, literature and culture. She advocates for active and continued research into our local area to ensure that we have access to accurate and up-to-date information and terminology. She is always learning herself. She continues to work closely with our staff in each room throughout the centre to pass on knowledge and to promote Indigenous perspectives in programs, room setups, wall displays, resource application and the facilitation of a range of learning experiences using natural materials. She works closely with staff, children and families with the goal of supporting ongoing learning regarding Aboriginal culture and heritage. She is thoughtful and inclusive in her approach to integrating Aboriginal culture with great emphasis on understanding cultural appropriation versus cultural appreciation. We are so grateful to have Stephanie rigorously striving to enhance the Happy Hearts curriculum with Aboriginal perspectives and pedagogies and wholeheartedly believes she is deserving recipient of this award. Isn't that just so nice? I just feel like, who wrote that?
One of my amazing team members wrote that for me. And when I read it, I was like, I don't do that. She's like, yeah, you're doing it every day. Like, this is what you're doing. And I was like, no, surely not. And
I just think it was really beautiful. And I mean, like, you must feel so lovely to have your colleague sort of voice that and to put that to you and to see that your work's not gone unnoticed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, congratulations and good on you for doing all of that. So we sort of know who you are and where you're from and what you do.
Yep.
But how did you come to work in early childhood and be passionate about sharing Aboriginal perspectives?
Yeah, so how I came to work in early childhood was I always had a passion for children. I used to babysit all the children in the neighborhood and but my main story is I had a friend when I was about 5 or 6 who had leukemia and she ended up passing away. And I used to go into the children's hospital and I actually would see all the entertainers, the people at the Starlight Foundation, and I wanted to work in the Starlight Foundation. So when I left high school, I applied for the Starlight Foundation. Unfortunately, I didn't have a musical background, so I didn't get the job. but then I just knew I wanted to work with children, and it was something that everyone in my neighborhood pushed for me to do, because I'd always just had such a love for children. So that was how I got into the industry. Yeah.
And I like, yeah, that sort of resonates with me a little bit as well. Like I had a family friend who had leukemia as well when I was in primary school.
Yeah.
We used to go and visit her. We used to see Fairy Sparkle. I don't know if you had a Fairy Sparkle, but
Yeah.
I think the Starlight Foundation is absolutely amazing in the
Yeah, it
work
was
that they
something that
do.
just always stuck with me. I just watched
Yeah,
like how my friend's face would light up when then, there's a lady
yeah,
dancing around as a fairy, and it wasn't anything, but it just made their day. And I always wanted to make children smile, just like I saw in the hospital.
yeah.
Um,
They
yeah,
do great work.
yeah, they
That's for
sure
sure.
do.
And so
Yeah.
how did you become passionate about Aboriginal education in your practice?
So we had always embedded Aboriginal perspectives into our program, but when I started as educational leader, I wanted to put meaning behind that. There was no meaning. I think that the staff at my centre were doing it because it was something they were told they had to do, but there was no meaning behind it. There was no passion behind it. And I wanted to give my team and the children meaning to why we're doing this. So when I started our RAP, I had to go and do a lot of research myself. I wanted to make sure correct rules to then teach my educators. I wanted to have the correct language. I wanted to have the correct resources, and I realized that was something I couldn't do overnight. That was something that would take time and research to build. And yeah, that was kind of how we started. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess so would that be the specific project that you've proud of, starting the RAP and being on
Yeah,
that
oh,
journey?
100%. Yeah, 100%. So proud
Yeah.
of it. And when I started as educational leader, we didn't have a RAP.
Mm,
Um, so I started from scratch. So it's been in the working now for 2 years. So I've only been in this position for about 2 years. And I've started from scratch, and we've developed this huge big RAP now, and we're so proud of how far it's come so far. Um,
and what are the key strategies that you've used to make that RAP successful? Because, a lot of people have them, and I've seen a lot of them used really not well. Like they're just sort of they exist, they're in the background, but
yeah,
not
yeah.
everyone's engaged with them.
No,
It's sort of like a set and forget, and that's
yeah.
definitely not what they should be.
So with my rap, it's something that I work on every single day. I go
Yeah.
to my rap every single day, and I'm always looking at ways to improve it or add to it. But Jess, you were actually one of my main inspirations. I was always on there jumping onto your courses,
Yeah.
seeing what new courses I could share with my educators, connecting with the community. In the area we're in, we don't have many Aboriginal community members. So I had to kind of source and look for Aboriginal community members a bit further, so into the Illawarra, to try and help, because as I said, we're a bit isolated up here in Helensburgh.
Yeah.
So that was a bit hard, trying to find some knowledge and some heritage, and get a little bit of background on the area.
So you
Um,
guys Darawal?
yes, we are. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think this is it. Sometimes when we think local, we can think of 15-minute radius, but
yeah,
it's much broader than that. So
that's right.
Sutherland Shire reconciliation is very, very active. I don't
Yep.
know if you're familiar with the Point Preschool at
Yeah,
Oyster
yep, yep.
Bay.
Yep, I've been there a few times.
Yeah, so we were there a couple of weeks ago for the launch of Jodie Edwards and Amy Lee Trindle's Hill Trindle's book.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've heard of
I
them.
did see it.
The
Yep.
easy books, the Easy
Yep,
Learns
yep,
Darawal series. I've got them right here.
yep.
And yeah, Jodie's doing heaps of work with revitalizing the Darawal language and looking at the seasons and sharing that information. But see, this is it. It's not in Helensburgh. It's a
Yeah.
bit further afield, but there's a really active community there down at Curranullah and so forth. So I think you're right. Getting, I guess, outside of your suburbs
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, yeah. So we were trying to look just for our area. We're trying to find the real heart and soul of Helensburgh, but we had to look further. So that took a little bit of time to research and, yeah, see who was out there, a bit further away from just Helensburgh itself.
Yeah, great. And so do you have a RAP working group?
We do. We have a small RAP working group. We're still trying to encourage some more staff members to get on board. Um, at the start, we started with our 3 management team, and at each staff meeting, sorry, staff, when we're explaining the RAP and what we're doing, more staff members are now getting on board.
Yeah.
So we have a huge display out in our hallway at Happy Hearts of our wrap. And the staff, you see them often walking past and go, oh, I'd like to be a part of that, or how can I help with this? And so the working group's getting bigger and bigger.
Okay. What do you think their hesitancy might have been for them to get involved with it initially?
At first, a lot of them said just having time to get off the floor and help out. And we kind of explained that you don't need to jump off the floor to help out. There was a lot of things in the room that like I myself don't work on the floor anymore, but there's a lot of things on the floor that the educators could start to do just in their rooms and their space, in embedding some Aboriginal artwork and things around the room, changing the colours up. So once I started to explain that, I think they were not so overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about reconciliation action plans is that there are roles that are suited to management, but
Yeah,
there are also roles that are suited to educators that are on the floor and ones that are for Aboriginal families and community members and so forth. There really is a space for everybody. And it's about sometimes just having the knowledge of what is a wrap and how can I join in and how can I participate to really find like your place, because I think that's
yeah,
it. Everyone wants to know, well, what is my role and how can I contribute to it? And so defining that in some way, I think is
yeah.
important to have that staff engagement. And I think having a display sounds good. So do you sort of, as the steering committee, will you put up things that you're working on that month or that
Yeah,
week?
yeah, yeah.
And
So we
then,
put up
yeah,
things that we're working towards, and it's got a little section for our families' comments if there's anything they want to add or contribute to as well.
yeah,
We've had a few suggestions from family members walking past about how they can be involved as well. So, but yeah, it's just a big process of what's happening at the centre at this time.
do you have Aboriginal families at your service?
We have one,
Okay.
just one.
Yeah. And I think this is it.
Yeah,
Sometimes what I see as well, educators will say, oh, well, we didn't invite any families because we don't have any Aboriginal families. But your non-Indigenous families still have people that they work with. They have neighbors, they have friends, they have,
yeah.
they still have connections and relationships and knowledge from their lived experiences and so forth that they can contribute to. So sometimes we really miss out by not including our families.
Yeah, our families have given us such amazing feedback. They're all like, every time I post something about on what we're working on, it's the post that gets the most comments. Like from the parents, they're all saying, "Oh, this is so exciting! Thank you for working with this." They're very keen and eager to see what we're doing with all the Aboriginal activities we're embedding in our schools. So it's
That's
really, really
amazing.
lovely feedback from all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So are there any other specific projects or initiatives that you wanted to highlight that you think that you're really proud of?
So we have just completed our first remote op shop Christmas drive. So we've sent off some items off to Northern Territory. So we had an overwhelming amount of donations. We had 5 large tubs filled with toys to be donated. So we're extremely proud of that to be able to send those off to the Northern Territory.
That's amazing.
We did a huge um, Aboriginal Literacy Foundation fundraiser. So we raised over $400 from doing the greatest book swap. So we're very, very proud of that. And also too, I'm just very proud of my educators just embedding Aboriginal perspectives in everything they do. Like when I walk into the classrooms, there's the Indigenous tablecloths out, natural items all around the room. As I said, we only got this wrap started 2 years ago, so it was a huge learning curve for my educators as well. Like they didn't know what a wrap was, most of them. So in the 2 years, we've just seen huge improvements all over the centre. So
Yeah, that's great.
yeah.
I love that you did the op shop drive. I love
Oh,
that. I love
and
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was so beautiful, and yeah, we're really proud of that one. This is our first time doing it.
Yeah.
There's actually a lady in Helensburgh that works for volunteers for the remote op shop. And she came to see me and she's like, "Oh, we just sent to be like, involved in this project." I was like, "Okay, let's give it a go."
Yeah,
Um,
great.
yeah, and within a matter of weeks, we had 5 or 4 weeks, I think it was, we had 5 big tubs of donations, and it was absolutely amazing. Just yeah, blown away.
And that's something as well, like I know you've done it for Christmas, but I reckon that's something that you could continue to do throughout the year
Oh,
as like to keep that
100%. Yeah.
connection going. Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
100%. We're already looking into what could be our next one, and yeah, different areas to support. So yeah, it's definitely something we're going to continue.
Are there any particular resources, tools, or programs that have influenced your approach to integrating Aboriginal perspectives in the curriculum?
As I said, I've done a lot of your training courses. Jumping on, have a looking at when like embedding Aboriginal perspectives for babies.
Yeah.
Like I love that you just had the simple changing of colors in the room using the red, black, and yellow. So that's something that we've done a lot of in our Bobby space. And just exposing them to more natural items as well. Trying to think what resources we've used.
I think with babies as well, like I personally feel that that's an age group that a lot of educators really struggle with,
Yeah,
to find meaningful ways to include it with that age group. Because I think, oh, they don't really understand, and like really just simplifying it and going, well, this is about exposure. It's about laying that foundation. So whether it is artwork or it's playing the music or having
yeah.
some hardcover baby board books and so forth, it doesn't have to be overly complex, it's
Yeah,
layers.
yeah, that's right. Now, educators, even in our bubbies room, they'll say their little morning acknowledgement of country each morning with their bubbies. And as our bubbies are getting a bit older, to coming towards the end of the year, you hear them start to join in on words, and it's just so sweet that they've picked that up. And yeah, most of them are about one, so they're starting to pick up the words of the acknowledgement of country each morning. So it's really, really sweet.
So, have you had many challenges in implementing Aboriginal programs at the centre?
My only challenge would be, we had a big discussion at one of our staff meetings when we've been working on the child safe standards, and one of our educators brought up about, we do so much Aboriginal stuff. What about other cultures?
Yeah.
And that was a kind of a little bit of a hurdle we had to kind of navigate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said, and I did explain, like, I think I do. I'm the type of person that when I get a role or when I get a position, I'm go, 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 go. So I probably have myself overwhelmed them in the last 2 years, because I really wanted to build this wrap up, and I really wanted to embed that Aboriginal perspective in our service. So I may have overwhelmed them with how much we've been doing in the service, but yeah, it was that was something we had to have a big chat about as well. Like, we do have cultures in our service, and we do lots of multicultural events throughout the year, and even just embedding other cultures aspects into our room. So we kind of had a bit of a discussion about that as well.
Yeah, look, I think it's valid, right? I had a similar experience last week. An educator was like, it's about all cultures. And I think it's about validating that and saying it absolutely is. It is about all cultures.
Yeah.
And, I always tell people I don't believe my culture is any more important than anybody else's. I just think everybody has a right to their culture, to be proud of who they are and where they're from. But it comes back to, when we're thinking about how we're including Italian culture in our curriculum, we generally do that because we have Italian children. If we didn't, we probably wouldn't, because we might have Korean children and we're focusing on their culture, right? The difference is that you include Aboriginal culture regardless, teaching on Aboriginal land.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. Sometimes as well, it's, I don't know if educators are frustrated with, I think there's a difference, but it's like they feel like it's being more focused or it's being privileged above other cultures, right? And I understand that, because it is about everybody. And if it's good for one, it's good for everyone. So I tell people one of the tools we use is a cultural learning plan for, to understand specific Aboriginal children's identity, their family values, their interests, protocols, and so forth. But that's a tool that can be used for a child from any cultural background, not just Aboriginal children.
Yeah.
So if it's good for one, it's good for everybody, right? But then there's educators that are like, not that this is the person at your service, but it's like, I'm sick of all this Aboriginal stuff, and I think then that almost becomes a different issue, and it goes back to looking at, well, why are you doing what you're doing? Do you understand
that's right,
why it is, and that kind of fundamental stuff? So yeah, I think sometimes you're always going to get hesitation, whether it's from an educator or a parent or a community member or someone that's online on Facebook that wants to question why you're doing what you're doing, but not shying away from those pedagogical discussions and like getting, and validating people's points of view. I think that's really good. That's exactly how I would handle it too.
Yeah. And as I said, it was at a staff meeting, so it was a good time for everyone to sit down and have a big discussion about it. So and they understood when we had a discussion about it, and it was just a kind of a hurdle that we had to face.
Hi everyone, I'm just jumping in quickly to remind you all that Beck and I have a series of upcoming events and workshops all throughout Queensland, where we'll be yarning about the new ELF principles, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives, and sustainability. will be in Toowoomba, Cairns, the Gold Coast, Brisbane, Mackay, Townsville, you name it, we'll be there. And we hope to see you all there. All right, take care, everyone. Enjoy the episode.
One of the things that I guess like we talk about your achievements, and you've achieved a lot in a relatively short period of time, I feel. But I also like to talk about situations where things didn't go so well, like if there were any mistakes that have been made along the way, or things that, if you could go back, you would do it differently. Just because I think, nobody's perfect, and I want people to understand that yes, you've achieved these things, but it's not without, I don't want to say failure, but it's not without
hurdles.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like, is there
Yeah.
things that you would go back and do differently?
Yeah, so when I first started, as I said before, I'm the type of person that when I get a job, I go in all blazing. I'm a type of person that wants things done then and there. And we sat down to write our vision, our RAP vision. And I'd written this huge big RAP vision, and I'd really thought about it, and I sent it off on the Narragawali platform, and it got sent back. And they were like, no, we need to make some changes. And I was devastated. I was like, oh, I've spent so much time and really thinking about what this meant to our service. And they sent it back and they said, oh, you need to make some changes. And I was like, oh, okay. And then so I really had to go back and do some more research, have a think about it. And that's where I wanted to go. That's where I went to look about like terminology. It was a lot of the terminology that I was incorrect on. So I really wanted to just dive in and go and see, just make changes. So make sure I had the correct terminology this time when writing it again.
Yeah.
And that was a hurdle. And I was pretty upset about that when it got sent back. I was like, oh no, I thought I was on the right path, and I thought I had collected as much information as I needed, and I was being respectful, and I was talking about so many areas. But then when it got sent back, I was like, oh no, maybe I'm rushing it. Maybe I'm just looking at it not at the right angle. And so yeah, that was a big learning curve. I spent a lot of time correcting my terminology, I think, and making sure I was being respectful in that way, because I thought I had done the right thing, and then I was like, oh no, maybe I'm not being respectful then if I haven't got the correct terminology. And yes, that was a big learning curve for me.
Oh, look, terminology is tricky because what one person likes, another person doesn't, right? Some people don't like the word Indigenous, they don't like the word Aboriginal, they don't like the word First Nation. Some people just say they're Koori or Wiradjuri or whatever it is, So it can be a personal thing, and then your community has their own preferred terminology within that as well. But I think that the main thing here is what I've taken from that is like, good on you. Like, you have to sit with those feelings of disappointment or being disheartened, but then you sort of like, you rally again and you go, okay, well, I want to listen, because sometimes people go, no, like I'm right, you're wrong. And it can be confronting because you've already put in all of this effort.
Yeah.
And then someone's coming in and saying to you, well, that's not quite right. And you go, like, all of this time, all of this effort, I thought I was right. And some people want to sort of justify instead of just listening and sitting with it. And that's what you did. You sort of took it on and you sat with it. And, reflected on it, and you rallied again. Another common response with things like that is that people will go, oh, well, see, this is why people don't do anything at all. We try, and then we're told that it's wrong, and that's why we don't do anything at all. And it's like, well, it's not just about doing anything. It's about doing it respectfully, isn't it? And you want to make sure that it is respectful, and you don't know what you don't know. So you need somebody to guide you and scaffold you and lead you down that path. So it is a process, and it does take time. Reconciliation is hard work. It's not easy. People think rap's easy. Rap's not easy. It's hard. It takes time.
And I think what I learned from that as well is that to slow down and really think about what's important. Like, as I said, I have done a lot in the last 2 years, because I'm a person that likes to keep moving, keep going. But I think it also taught me to slow down, make sure you've got the correct information, make sure you're educating your staff correctly, make sure the children are getting the correct message. So it kind of taught me to slow down. Like, this is something that doesn't have to happen overnight. This is something that needs to be done in a respectful way. So
you're like me. I've got ADHD. I want everything done yesterday.
Right? That's me.
And my team will attest to that. I'm like, where's this? What are we doing? Let's go. I'm already creating the next thing.
That's me.
And a big thing for me, like this happened when I was an educator in relatively early in my career as well, is that the director I was working for at the time said, do you want to do it, or do you want to bring about cultural change? If you want to bring about cultural change, you have to step back and away from it, and you have to let other people step into it.
Yeah.
And from that, I kind of got what she was saying, and now even more so, is that to be a good leader, sometimes you have to lead from behind. So
Mhm.
how can you support other people to step forward and to take on that responsibility, to take on that action? And you can only move as quickly as your slowest
That's right.
person, right? And they
Yeah.
say that as well. I don't know if you've ever seen like there's this classic image of like a wolf pack, right? And like the leader leads from the back,
Yeah.
because there's like a whole way of which the pack moves, and the leader is at the very, very back to make sure that the most vulnerable and the slowest are being taken care of and supported to
Yeah.
reach the destination of where you need to get them to.
Yeah.
So I think it's a different way of looking at leadership, is that we're not always out the front trailblazing, but how are you actually motivating people and supporting them
Yeah.
to bring about the change that you want to see.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay. So what advice would you give to educators who are just starting to incorporate Aboriginal perspectives in their teaching, or like to an educational leader that wants to begin their RAP? What advice would you give to them?
Do your research. Do your research. Make connections with people in the community first. As I said, I made my connections with community members after I'd started my RAP, and that was another thing I'd wish I'd gone back and got those connections before building my RAP. It would have given me more insight on how to build it. Yeah, so I think do your research, make those connections. It's extremely important. The elders will help you so much. They've been such a blessing. And they've given me so much information that I had no idea about, that I didn't know about reconciliation. I didn't know the correct meaning. And we spoke to them, they've given us such insight. So I really think for educators, educational leaders, make some connections. If they're family members, if they're elders, even people like you, Jess, they're so knowledgeable. Make those connections first, I think.
Thank you. I mean, look, I think there's two ways to look at it, right? I think some people think a RAP some people have said to me, we can't have a RAP because we haven't done enough yet.
Yeah.
And it's like a RAP is not reporting on what you have done. It's about having a vision of where you want to go and what you want to do. So historically, yes, everybody has done something, but don't feel like you have to have done anything. You don't. It's an action plan. And it's saying that this is where you want to go, and here are the stepping stones of how you're going to go and ahead and get there. So one of their goals might be to make community connections, and that can take a lot of time, and they have a strategy as to how they're going to get there and make those connections. However, I do think, and I strongly believe in this saying, is that there is nothing for us without us. And so having representation on your RAP working group of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people is really important, because how do you then know that you are doing the right thing? And I know that is hard. Like, I sit across many, many reconciliation action plans, but it can be hard to find somebody to be on your RAP working group who is Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander. If you've only got that one family at your service, that can feel like a lot of pressure to that family. Or if you've only got one or two Aboriginal educators, they can feel that pressure. So sometimes they engage people like myself, like consultants, to sit on their RAP working groups to give them that guidance. But reconciliation, one of the key elements of reconciliation is race relations. So it's about both, like, coming together. So having that community consultation at that level, I think, is important. So with the community connections that you have now, who are you connected to within your community, and how did you go about making those relationships?
So we contacted the Aboriginal Land Council in the Illawarra. That was our first kind of go-to when I was starting to research. And then we made connection with Adam from AT Culture. And Adam's come out to our service before, and the children just absolutely loved him. And that was a good learning curve for the children at our service. We got so many children's voices from that, which helped build our RAP. Like, we got so many ideas from the children. The conversations after Adam's visit was just amazing. So that helped build our RAP up a little bit more. Some ideas that we followed the children's lead in that. So they absolutely love Adam.
Have you come across any common misconceptions about Aboriginal education that you think educators should be aware of?
I think a lot of it, as I said, with regarding our the knowledge behind why we're doing things. Educators just doing things because they think they have to do something Aboriginal with not knowing
Why? Yeah, like what
yeah.
underpins that?
Yeah,
I agree.
I've walked into so many centres and they're just sitting there dot painting, and I'm like, oh, what? Like, why?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah,
That's
do you know
it.
what I mean? I think there's I think there's a lot of things I've seen, especially when it's first starting our rap. They would just do things because they think they had to do things, without actually having some real meaning and education behind it.
So where to next for you guys? What do you think will be your next project, or where would you like to see your team go?
So we would still love to support our remote op shop project. So that's something that we are looking into for next year. We are looking into getting some more veggie gardens and some bush tucker gardens put into our centre. We did have smaller versions, but we're looking at getting some more permanent items into our yard that the children can use for cooking. And making some recipe books, bush tucker recipe books for our families to take home and to share with our families.
Have you got questions about nature play, sustainability, or how to meaningfully include Aboriginal culture in your early childhood program? Call 0253 000 306 and leave a voice message for the Educator Yarns podcast. Beck Burch from Bush Kindies Australia and Jessica Staines from the Koori curriculum will be answering your questions, offering practical advice, cultural guidance, and inspiring ideas to support your teaching and planning. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take your program deeper, your question could shape future episodes and support other educators across the country. Dial in today at 0253 000 306.
Is there a book or resource that you would recommend to educators that are starting on this journey?
Oh, we always read over Jess, over your you might see in the background the Koori curriculum guide, like your guides that get sent out.
Yeah.
So that's something that we always use. We're always using that. I'm trying to think what else.
That's all right. That's good.
Yeah.
Tell people about our guides. They're great.
Yeah.
Go grab them. They're on the freebie page on the Koori curriculum website.
Yeah,
right?
it's sitting right behind me. Our educators come into our meeting room and they read over it. They take it home and have a bit of a read what's coming up next. So yeah, that is probably a big one for our educators.
Yeah. If the listeners could take away one key message from this conversation, what would you want it to be?
To do research, to be respectful, to make connections, to work together, to work as one, to work with, as I said, like with our Aboriginal families. The connection was made through the Aboriginal Land Council. Make connections and
Yeah, well said. Yeah. How can educators stay connected and support each other on this journey, do you think?
I would like to see more, I'm not sure if it's something that is available. As I said, I've only been doing this for 2 years and I'm still learning myself, but seeing more educational leaders come together in learning groups, sharing ideas with their raps, supporting each other in that way.
Yeah, I agree. So Narragansett does have, you should be able to see it on their website.
Yeah.
There are regions that do that. So you can, if there's not one in your region, you can definitely try and set one up.
Yeah.
And it is exactly for that. So it's a networking group for educators from different services to come together, whether it's monthly or quarterly or whatever, and to share examples of their reconciliation action plan. I'm helping an USH service on the Northern Beaches develop this at the moment. And the idea is that each meeting that they have, they're going to talk about a specific RAP action. So everyone will come, for example, and talk about acknowledgement of country. Then they'll all come together and talk about community connections. And so people take documentation and examples of what they do. So I think check out the Narragansett website, because there probably is something like that. And I know for us at Koori Curriculum, we have a retreat that's coming up for educational leaders specifically, which will be in Newcastle, on the New South Wales sort of coast. So this is on programming, planning and pedagogy. So it's a train the trainer sort of thing. So we train educational leaders on how they can then go back to their services and run Aboriginal programs and bring about that cultural change with their team throughout a much longer period of time.
Yeah.
But we've specifically targeted educational leaders for it because they need that support from other leaders that are doing the same role as them, you know, that are wearing all of those other hats, that are facing the same challenges, because that support is very much needed.
Yeah. And even just for fresh information, you know, sometimes you get stuck in a bit of a rut. What to next? What can we do next? And it's sometimes just making those connections, sharing ideas. It's really helpful. Yeah,
awesome. Well, thanks, Steph, so much, and congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you.
I think it's very, very well deserved, and it sounds like you're doing some amazing things, and I can't wait to see what your service ends up doing next. And I appreciate you jumping on.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast. To find out more information about the Koori curriculum and how we can best support you in your early learning service, visit www.kooricurriculum.com.